afternoon again, everyone. I invite you now to stand for the national anthem. Thank you. Thank you very much. You may have your seats. Honorable Emma Hippolyte, Minister for Commerce, Manufacturing, Business Development, Cooperative and Consumer Affairs. Honorable, well, not there. Mr. Isaac Solomon, Vice President, Operations, Caribbean Development Bank. Mr. Sheldon Jackman, Project Officer, Delegation of the European Union to Barbados, the Eastern Caribbean States, the OECS, and CARIFORUM and CARIFORUM. Mr. Shaki Goodwin and Ms. Cassian James of the Caribbean Development Bank, Ms. Sunita Daniel, Chief Executive Officer, Export Saint Lucia, Mrs. Sophia Alfie Henry, Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Commerce, Manufacturing, Business Development, Cooperative and Consumer Affairs, Mr. Claudius Emmanuel, Permanent Secretary in the Department of Economic Development, Mr. Barrymore Felix and Mrs. Soraya Niles Regis, Permanent Secretary and Deputy Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Agriculture, Fisheries, Food Security and Rural Development, Dr. Keith Nurse, Principal of the Sir Arthur Lewis Community College, Ms. Lisa Louis, EPA Coordinator in the International Trade Unit of the Ministry of External Affairs, International Trade, Civil Aviation and Diaspora Affairs, Representative of the St. Lucia Air and Seaport Authority, Dr. Aurea King Snack, Director of Agriculture, Ms. Nyla Mangal and Mr. Anthony Homan, representatives of the project beneficiaries, Mr. Vernie Manuel, Director of the St. Lucia Bureau of Standards, and members of the National Export Council, Mr. Vincent Lacobinier, General Manager of the St. Lucia Marketing Board, representatives of various farmers' cooperatives, specially invited guests, staff of the Government of St. Lucia, members of the media, and viewing public. I welcome you to this launch. My name is Yvonne Agard, and I'm the chair of the St. Lucia Export Development Agency, and I'm also the executive director of the St. Lucia Coalition of Services, and I'll be your MC for today's event. I am pleased to welcome you to the launch of this project entitled Enhancing the Capacity of Stakeholders in the Agricultural Sector to Supply Quality Products to New Markets. This project epitomizes the functional mandates of all the national entities that have collaborated to make today's event possible, namely Export Saint Lucia, St. Lucia Bureau of Standards, Sir Arthur Lewis Community College, Ministries of Agriculture and Commerce. This multi-stakeholder collaborative initiative, funded through a grant agreement between the Caribbean Development Bank and Export Saint Lucia in the amount of €253,970, is in keeping with the bank's strategic objective of building economic resilience, fostering inclusive and sustainable economic growth and development. And this project also aligns with some of our own national imperatives for agriculture, exports, and standard implementation. The National Export Development Strategy for 2020-2024 being implemented by the Export Saint Lucia under an overall vision of uniquely Saint Lucia with a global appeal, has outlined in its roadmap a program which seeks to expand the national productive capacity and diversify the export basket. One of the priority sectors as outlined in the strategy is the food and beverage industry, and some of the key success factors include the improvement of trade support service to SME and the reputation of their products in export markets. Additionally, it seeks to strengthen trust and cooperation among the value chain actors. Most of you are here today to talk about the farmers, the exporters, and those who are involved in standards development. The project is designed to address this gap in the sector. The project also highlights the practical application of the national quality policy. The Saint Lucia Bureau of Standards, being the custodian of quality infrastructure, has worked with the Ministry of Commerce and Agriculture to ensure that the EU-funded National Agricultural Diagnostic Facility is fully operational. With the prioritized resources, for instance, your national standards and the funding for analysis. And this has been made available to the Ministry of Agriculture to achieve the project outcome, which is to improve compliance of St. Lucia's fresh produce export with internationally good food safety practicing and strengthen capacity of all stakeholders to improve gender-sensitive and inclusive services in accordance with internationally good food safety management practice. So in a nutshell, the program seeks to ensure that when St. Lucia products reach the international market, it has met all the conditions for entry. So again, we will hear much more about the project from our esteemed line of speakers who represent the line ministries, the sponsoring organizations, and beneficiary organizations. So at this juncture, I would like to call on the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Commerce, Mrs. Sophia Alfie-Henry, to deliver the welcome remarks.
Honorable Emma Hippolyte, Minister for Commerce, Manufacturing, Business Development, Cooperatives, and Consumer Affairs. Honorable Moses Jean-Baptiste, Minister for Health, Wellness, and Elderly Affairs. Mr. Isaac Solomon, Vice President, Operation, Caribbean Development Bank. Mr. Sheldon Jackman, Project Officer, Delegation of the European Union to Barbados. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. The list is very long, so allow me to adopt the protocol that has already been established. Thank you. It is my distinct pleasure to welcome you here today as we initialize this very timely project. The government of St. Lucia is grateful to the European Union for the funding made available through the 11th EDF for small island developing states such as ours. Agriculture remains a major component of both the economic and social fabric of St. Lucia, and strides towards improving our processes are always welcomed and encouraged by the government of St. Lucia. I would like to welcome and recognize the representatives from the European Union and the Caribbean Development Bank. Your foresight and generosity through the development of the EPA has assisted many developing countries like St. Lucia to easy, ready, and quota-free access to the European basin. The Ministry of Commerce, responsible for policy development towards the advancement of businesses in St. Lucia, is proud to deploy our affiliate agency, Export Saint Lucia, to coordinate this project, and happy that St. Lucia Bureau of Standards, another agency of the ministry, will work closely with Export Saint Lucia to ensure compliance of our farmers with international standards. This project will be twofold. With the refurbishment of the pack houses, this initiative will give more farmers access to international markets. It will also increase the basket of goods available and suitable for export out of St. Lucia. The Ministry of Commerce is well aware of the high standard required by international markets and has always urged our manufacturers and farmers to strive to meet them. This intervention is a boost towards jumping that hurdle, and for this we are truly grateful. The capacity building aspect of this project will ensure that knowledge is not just acquired, but will be transferable. With the inclusion of the young minds at the Sir Arthur Lewis Community College and the infusion of technology, the mode of delivery of the training will fit well into our new normal, where social distancing remains an effective tool against COVID-19. We would like to wish continued success to your projects and initiatives under the EPA. My ministry will continue to seek ways in which we can benefit from the programs available under the EDF and look forward to working with the CDB in the near future. Thank you all for your presence, and we look forward to the successful implementation of this initiative. Thank you.
Thank you very much, PS Alfie. We now call on Mr. Isaac Solomon, Vice President, Operations, Caribbean Development Bank, to deliver the opening remarks.
Thank you very much. Honorable Emma Hippolyte, Minister for Commerce, Manufacturing, Business Development, Consumer Affairs. Honorable Moses Jean-Baptiste, Minister of Health, Wellness and Elderly Affairs. Mr. Barrymore Felicien, PS, the Ministry of Agriculture, Fisheries, Food Security and Rural Development. Mr. Sheldon Jackman, Project Officer, Delegation of the European Union to Barbados, the Eastern Caribbean, the OECS, and CARIFORUM. Ms. Naila Mangal and Mr. Anthony Herman, representatives of our many project beneficiaries. Ms. Sunita Daniel, Chief Executive Officer, Export Saint Lucia. Government representatives, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, other specially invited guests, members of the media, our online audience, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. On behalf of the President and staff of the Caribbean Development Bank, as well as my colleagues who are here with me today, I wish to convey warmest greetings. And for me personally, I'm thrilled to be back here, a place I called home for 8 years. I'm also pleased to deliver remarks at the launch of the Enhancing the Capacity of Stakeholders in the Agricultural Sector to Supply Quality Products in New Markets project here in beautiful St. Lucia. Just 3 weeks after our 52nd annual meeting, where your Prime Minister, the Honorable Philip J. Pear, assumed chairmanship of our Board of Governors, we are on the ground with yet another CDB project. This exciting new initiative, facilitated through the Economic Partnership Agreement, EPA, and CARICOM Single Market and Economy, CSME, standby facility for capacity building, is designed to improve the lives and livelihoods of the people of St. Lucia and the Caribbean through strengthened trade and increased economic opportunities. The standby facility will not be possible without our development partners at the European Union, who have provided over 8 million euros in financing 26 projects across the region so far. We are extremely grateful for their sustained support and collaboration, which have brought about a variety of meaningful interventions in borrowing member countries. This project reflects an investment of 328,320 euros, or 925,862 EC dollars, provided by the EU to contribute to the transformation of local agriculture and agro-processing. To the Government of St. Lucia, we thank you for your commitment to the success of this standby facility initiative and congratulate you on this important achievement. CDB looks forward to further strengthening our relationship and building the capacities of operators in one of the country's most important socio-economic sectors, agriculture, as we work on the shared regional agenda to reduce CARICOM's food import bill by 25% by 2025. The project comes at a time when many Caribbean countries are addressing challenges to their food value chains. It is undisputed that the most vulnerable in our societies have been more deeply impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic and implications of the sustained global slowdown. At the same time, many involved in trade reported changes in income levels, with the World Trade Organization indicating that the sector has been adversely affected by a complex network of shocks. This has extensively derailed the attainment of sustainable development targets, more so in the developing world and in our region. While there has been disruption, we are now presented with a unique opportunity to directly address pre-existing issues and focus on accelerated growth by forging innovative synergies fueled by a need for greater efficacy. In fact, throughout the period of sustained crisis, CDB has responsibly shaped mechanisms which have and are assisting our member countries during a most challenging period. In 2020, through an exogenous shock response policy-based loan PBL, we provided budgetary support in the amount of $30 million to the government of St. Lucia to underpin the country's response and recovery from the devastating impacts of COVID-19. Guided by our agricultural strategy and policy, we are leveraging key opportunities to channel resources across the region that will create a more competitive sector with improved productivity, market linkages, and resilience. As a corollary, this standby facility project provides an inclusive framework that targets vulnerabilities in trade and food security. Its focus on increasing economic opportunities and participation of women and young people in agriculture, agro-processing, and enterprise will lead to greater empowerment of this grouping beyond its broader targets. Objectives include improving access to export markets for rural farming communities, which has the potential for direct and indirect economic empowerment through revenue generation and job creation for women and youth, who have been disproportionately affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. This initiative also advances our efforts to support borrowing member countries in achieving Sustainable Development Goal 1, Zero Poverty, SDG 5, Gender Equality, SDG 9, Industry, Innovation and Infrastructure, SDG 10, Reduce Inequalities, and SDG 12, Responsible Production and Consumption. Ladies and gentlemen, today we are extremely pleased to launch an activity that focuses on enhancing local capacity to meet and exceed international standards, which will undoubtedly increase market share and create new export markets. This approach will encourage and enable greater economic participation and opportunities for those in agriculture, while also addressing inequalities and contributing to a more sustainable recovery. CDB is grateful to our partners at the EU and the Ministries of Commerce and Agriculture for working with us to make this project a reality. We are confident that it will be both productive and impactful. All the best to the implementation team at Export Saint Lucia as you work to achieve each milestone and successfully complete your second standby facility project. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Solomon, for those words. Next on our agenda is a short video production. We're looking at we're introducing the standby facility.
A new standby facility financed by the European Development Fund, EDF, and implemented by the Caribbean Development Bank, CDB, is underway. This regional program is designed to substantively improve citizens' lives and livelihoods by enhancing trade. The standby facility targets 15 Caribbean states with €8.75 million in funds. Whether producers or service providers, customers or employees in any sector, we are involved in trade. Trade is at the heart of our economies. It is part of our development DNA. Join us as we explore how the Standby Facility, the European Union and the CDB are supporting cooperation, the integration of regional economies, and improving our business environment by assisting governments, enterprises, and support entities. The Standby Facility, transforming lives through trade.
Thank you. I now call on one of the beneficiaries of the program, Mr. Anthony Homan, who is the president of the Bellevue Farmers Cooperative, to deliver a few remarks.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. With the protocol having been established, and I notice it's quite long, but I just want to take a few minutes. I have looked at the program and I suspect I might have about 4 minutes, so I just want to take 60 seconds of my 4 minutes to invoke the Lord's blessing upon the gathering and to thank the Lord for traveling mercies upon you, for coming in, and traveling mercies upon you for going out. Amen. When I got the invitation from Mr. Glenford that a team was coming to visit to look at retrofitting a pack house for Bellevue, I couldn't find the words to describe how I felt. Because normally, as a farmer, I am never in the house between the hours of 8 and 4. I'm on the field. But that day, somehow, I found myself sitting at the desk near a computer and a phone. And strange thing about this phone, it rings once and that's it. But somehow I was right there to pick up that call. So I said to him, "Do you believe in divine intervention?" And he laughed. Today, I also want to recognize the effort of the Minister of Commerce, who is the Minister of Cooperative, and the Minister of Agriculture, whom I have had a long, outstanding relationship with, for the effort they have made to get our cooperative, which at one time did about $1.8 million worth of business per year. But because of COVID, it was really devastating for us. And while we were looking at recovery, then the hurricane came. And with this, and the whole shrinking of the market, it's been very difficult for us to have made the forward motion move to get back. But cooperatives are resilient. And they belong to the people, for the people, by the people, and we will not stay down. I can assure you of that. Today, for me, is very special. Because over 35, 40 years ago, as a young boy, I call myself a young boy, I happen to have been the beneficiary of a program initiated by CDB to train public servants in project planning, development, and management. And I was very fortunate to have been recommended to attend that training session. And for the past 30, 40 years, I have used the skills and knowledge gained at that workshop at that time to move the cause of agriculture and farming to a level where we can have food sustainability, food safety, and food for the indigents and the poor. For unless you're poor and your indigents can have access to food, then you cannot truly call yourself a developing country. Therefore, I want to assure CARICOM and its partner, the EU, that this initiative that is coming forth is one that will be well guarded, and because you had already made preparation 30, 40 years ago to put people in place to guard it, and it will last another 40 years. At Bellevue Cooperative in our heyday, we employed 20+ persons. And we've worked on many, many, many different projects. And I was so excited to see that Ms. Danielle is the CEO of Export Saint Lucia. Because Ms. Danielle and myself, when she was at the head of corporate planning at the Ministry of Agriculture, worked on some great projects that are still alive today. One was a modernization of a Delce irrigation project, water coming to the farmers by gravity. And I remember at the time I was serving at the Choiseul Credit Union, I was board secretary, and I said to my board, listen, we need to think out of the box and do something that has never been done before. And I came up with the idea of a development program for Choiseul based on agricultural development. And I came to her and I told her, this is my draft, this is what I prepared. And she told me, but a credit union? That's strange. But guess what? Because it is strange, we'll do it. And I sat with her, and we developed not just a project for the farming, but irrigation, but we went even further. Today, that project is still in existence. Especially, I want to emphasize that to the EU because I know the issues you have had with irrigation projects around the world and the Caribbean. Sometimes they start and they fail, but ours is still functioning. And that not just it is functioning, it is producing almost 70 to 80% of the vegetables that are coming into our supermarkets and hotels, and it has a strong gender bias, women and young women. Just recently, I think prior to COVID, Bellevue initiated a program where we helped develop a group of women, only women farmers. And today they're in production and they're using this irrigation. So EU, thank you. CARICOM, thank you. Without you, we could not have done it. And we've gone on to also, Ms. Danielle and myself, develop a project for young people, youth in agriculture. Today it's called YEP, based at River Dory, and there a number of young persons have made investments in agriculture, livestock, and crops. And these young women are now the head of their own destiny. They do not rely on anybody to put $1 in their pocket or to try and beg for $1. They have their own income, and it could not have been possible if CARICOM had not done this training and I had not been part of it and appreciate the training and pass it on. Knowledge means nothing if it's not passed on. If it stays stagnant with you who got it, then it means nothing. That is why I'm so excited to be here. Imagine I wrote about 7 drafts. for today. In the end, I am here with nothing. I said, I'm just going to speak from my heart. I'm just going to speak from my heart. We understood, and the chairperson mentioned food safety. And Bellevue has always been conscious of food safety. And in collaboration with Jeff, the Ministry of Agriculture here in St. Lucia, and the SSDF, for the past 5-6 years, we've embarked on the great project of enhancing and bringing down the cost of production in the farming sector. And just prior to COVID, this is what we came up with. An introduction to organic fertilizers and pesticides, a safer and healthier alternative for all. This book, which we are very proud of, contains lots of information regarding an alternative to toxic chemicals. And I am going to, Madam Chairperson, I will want your permission to be able to present a copy to the CARICOM rep and the EU rep, if you don't mind, just before I'm finished. And the purpose is to limit the toxicity in our food system, to limit and eventually remove toxic chemicals from the schools, especially our secondary schools. These children are the future public servants of tomorrow. And if we expose them to toxic chemicals, they may not be present tomorrow to continue the work in the public service. We know the harmful effects of these chemicals on the reproductive health of these children, and I know the Minister of Health will be pleased to hear that. So I am moving on a campaign to completely eradicate all forms of toxic chemicals from the schools, and to cause the Ministry of Education to purchase those books and make it available as a textbook at the secondary school. That will certainly create a new set of healthy persons as well as food. Therefore, now to the facility. I always take my glass half full. And I always take a disappointment and turn it into an opportunity. What I see with this facility, Madam Chairperson, is an opportunity for this side, and I know my minister and Rep for Soufrière will be excited to have this, that we at Bellevue is now going to impact to reduce cost of moving produce in a manner that it can reach the market in a really fresh and good condition. Because I see the vehicles coming from Dennery, open vehicles, coming to pick breadfruit, and going back in the late afternoon with breadfruits. By the time it gets to the stage and wash and clean, that has impact on it. That facility, I can assure you, I'm already thinking in my head that we can begin to work with the farmers and the exporters, create synergies with Export Saint Lucia. We can all come together to make use of this pack house for packaging and storage of this commodity. So that by the time we've done this, the next morning or the late afternoon, in a refrigerated truck that I understood will be made available to the project, it can be taken straight to the airport. So it leaves Choiseul refrigerated, it gets to the airport refrigerated, and it leaves the plane refrigerated, and gets to its destination refrigerated. Quality, quality, quality. And this is what is going to make us different. This is what is going to make us better. And this is what that's going to make us exceptional. I am nearing the end of my 4 minutes. So, once again, I just want, I don't know, like I said, I was going to speak from the heart. So I would like to, if you to assist me, Madam Chairperson, if I can.
So I'll accept the copy
On behalf of
the
them,
EU,
yes. Yes, on behalf of the EU.
Thank you very much.
For them.
For them, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Right.
much.
I appreciate this.
That's mine. Thank you very much for this inspiring delivery. I was just saying to Sunita, he sounded like a preacher. And then she said to me, he's also a teacher. And so it was sure all the skills came out of that delivery. And I mean, we're very thankful for advocates like yourself, people who are passionate about the sector, to be working with this project to ensure its success. Thank you very much. At this juncture, I'd like to call on Naila Mangal of Mangal Trading, another young, dynamic exporter who would deliver a few remarks.
Good afternoon. My name is Naila Mangal, and I am the owner of Mangal Trading Inc. At Mangal Trading, we sought and export fresh local produce, both regional and internationally. I am one of a growing group of female exporters in St. Lucia and have been lucky to ship locally grown produce multiple times. However, like many exporters, I have run into challenges when it comes to growing my business outside of existing markets. This is mainly due to issues with crop quality and meeting necessary entry requirements. It is my understanding that this project will provide training to farmers on proper practices on this farm, as well as proper practices in the packing house. The project will also provide specialized equipment that our farmers really need. This training and provision of equipment means that the financial product will be of much better quality. For me, this means that I will be able to export high-quality agriculture produce to new markets from farmers who have been certified in the relevant international standards. Many times, we look at the wider national impact of these projects. Today, I want all of you to take stock of how this project will benefit me, a young female agricultural entrepreneur. I am excited about the possibilities that are ahead, and thanks to the commitment of this project. The project will open new doors not only for me, but for other female farmers and exporters. In 2022, more people are starting to recognize agriculture as a business. These are the types of projects that we need to push the sector forward, and I am confident that it will do just that. I would like to thank the EPA and CSME standby facility for building and exporting St. Lucia for the introduction of this time project. The work is only just beginning, but the benefits will last a lifetime. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much, Naila. That was so inspiring again. And I mean, when I think of a young female in agriculture, that gives us hope. It also provides some kind of motivation for young farmers so they know that there is a future in agriculture and that they can have all the assets and achieve all the material things in life through that industry. Naila, I want to thank you for your hard work and to also encourage you to continue along that line. Right now, we're going to have another project video feature, which would be followed by remarks by the EU delegate, Mr. Sheldon Jackman.
Export Saint Lucia is helping our farmers, agro-processors, and partners in agriculture to increase exports and revenue through a new project. With the assistance of the European Union and the Caribbean Development Bank's EPA and CSME standby facility, we are ensuring our exporters are prepared to deliver quality products from farm to fork. Over the next few months, we will train farmers and those along the value chain, provide equipment, and work with those at our ports to guarantee the preparation of high-quality agricultural products meeting and exceeding global standards. We are paving the way for increased exports of brand Saint Lucia by enhancing capacity in the agricultural sector to supply quality products in new markets. Export Saint Lucia, excellence at home and abroad.
Mr. Sheldon Jackman, Project Officer, Delegation of the European Union to Barbados, the Eastern Caribbean States, the OECS and CARIFORUM, will join us virtually. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Chair. I hope everyone can hear me clearly. The Honorable Emma Pullett, Minister for Commerce, Manufacturing, Business Development, Cooperatives and Consumer Affairs. The Honorable Moses Jean-Baptiste, Minister of Health and Wellness. Mr. Isaac Solomon, Vice President, Operations, Caribbean Development Bank. Mrs. Sophia Alfie Henry, Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Commerce. Mr. Anthony Herman, President of the Bellevue Farmers Cooperative. Ms. Naila Mangal of Mangal Trading. Members of the media and the listening public, good afternoon to all. I'd like to start by bringing compliments on behalf of the head of delegation, Ambassador Magosata Vasilevska, who would have loved to be there with you in person, but had prior commitments. The EU delegation would like to thank you for this invitation to share brief remarks at this very important event. Of course, thanks goes to the government of St. Lucia, Export Saint Lucia and the Caribbean Development Bank. The project being launched today, enhancing the capacity of stakeholders in the agricultural sector to supply quality products in new markets, is the 15th project to be launched under the current standby facility. The results of this initiative are expected to go a long way in advancing the competitiveness of the private sector in St. Lucia, improving the infrastructure and quality standards of the agri-food system, while building the capacity among the agricultural value chain actors. In addition, the project will deepen access to international markets for those products and services emanating from the rural farming communities in St. Lucia. This expected growth in demand in turn will hopefully lead to further economic empowerment through job creation, particularly for women and youth in those communities. We can all agree that initiatives like these being launched today are proven to be vital in boosting regional economies to growth as they continue to come to terms with the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. The standby facilities were created to support member states in the region to engage in the effective implementation of the Economic Partnership Agreement and the Caribbean Single Market and Economy. The standby facilities are designed to provide assistance in addressing various impediments to trade that may be unique to each country. EU funds are typically used to equip producers to meet international standards in food safety, technical regulations for goods, improving the capacity of manufacturers to access new markets, improving the regulatory environment for business, as well as improving the trade facilitation process. To date, the facility has seen the launch of numerous key projects across the region, some of which include increasing the capacity of small agri-producers in Jamaica, the development of a port community system in Barbados, the development of the National Food Safety System in Grenada, the establishment of an integrated border system in the OECS, and the establishment of a national quality policy in Trinidad and Tobago. And these are some. There were a lot more that were launched recently. This standby facility forms part of a wider program of support under the European Union's 19 million euro grant for the implementation of the Economic Partnership Agreement that will see CARIFORUM member states improve in key areas of innovation and intellectual property rights, technical barriers to trade, sanitary and phytosanitary measures, and capacity building in the areas of competition, public procurement, customs, and trade facilitation. Signed in 2008, the EPA goes beyond the typical trade agreement that provides duty-free and quota-free access to the EU market, but it contains commitments on trade and services, investment, trade-related issues such as competition policy, government procurement, intellectual property rights, as well as sustainable development aspects. It is also important to note that I need to point out that this project being launched today will complement the ongoing work being done under the 11th EDF Technical Barriers to Trade and SPS measures regional projects. To date, the TBT project has seen significant inroads in closing quality-related gaps and strengthening regional frameworks in standards, metrology, accreditation, and conformity assessment. The SPS project is also working towards strengthening the regulatory environment and compliance through capacity building for food producers and producers in the fishery sector. In closing, the EU reiterates its support to Saint Lucia and the wider region through initiatives like this under the standby facility. We look forward to the implementation of this project and the benefits it will bring to the people of Saint Lucia. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jackman. At this point, we are going to have a short cultural performance by Shazi De Riviere and Jamari Daisy. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Great performance. Another round of applause, please. Next, I would like to call on Mr. Barry Moore Felicien, Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Agriculture, Fisheries, Food Security and Rural Development, who will deliver on behalf of the Honorable Minister Alfred Prosper, who's unable to make it today. Welcome.
Although the protocol has been established, permit me to recognize the honorable ministers, Honorable Emma Hippolyte, Minister for Commerce, Business Development, Manufacturing, Cooperatives, and Consumer Affairs. Honorable Moses Jean-Baptiste, Minister for Health, Wellness, and Elderly Affairs, representative from the CDB, Mr. Isaac Solomon, the CARIFORUM delegate, Sheldon Jackman, distinguished peers, Sophia Alfie Henry, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I've been asked by the Honorable Minister, Alfred Prosper, to deliver some remarks. He sends his well wishes for successful ceremony, and with other speakers before me for successful implementation as well. So this is what the Honorable Alfred Prosper would like me to say to you. I am service-bound and duty-bound to deliver. Today, it is my great pleasure to be part of this momentous occasion, the launch of the project, enhancing the capacity of stakeholders in the agricultural sector to supply quality products to new markets. Gratitude is extended to the following entities who have all contributed towards the provision of the grant in the amount of euros 328,000. I think we've heard that amount a lot mentioned today, to be utilized to offset the high cost of implementation and compliance with international standards for food safety. The Caribbean Development Bank, CDB, European Union through the 11th EDF, the Caribbean Community CARICOM Single Market and Economy, Standby Facility for Capacity Building, and of course, Export Saint Lucia. Efforts of the St. Lucia Bureau of Standards, SLBS, are also recognized as a key player in the establishment and enforcement of standards here in St. Lucia. Food security and nutrition has in recent times weighed more on the conscious minds of St. Lucians due to the negative impacts of COVID-19 demonstrated through the closure of borders, various countries' preservation of their food production for their own consumption, and resulting supply chain issues. As we grapple with ensuring food availability, one of the key pillars of food security is utilization, or called utilization. Utilization speaks to the social, economic aspects as the human body's capacity to ingest food, including sanitation, food safety, and standards. One only needs to take a serious or curious look at the various standard requirements in key markets such as the UK and the US to realize that for us to gain a greater market share, we need to work towards significantly improving our food safety standards. This project, through its multifaceted approach, with considerations made for capacity building for farmers, fresh produce operators or exporters, and packhouse individuals, will ensure that we advance towards higher levels of food safety. We can all appreciate that all the knowledge gained by participants would not be limited for use in exportation only, since the project will be equally valuable for the sale of produce on the local markets, contributing towards food safety right here in St. Lucia. As we continue to place strategic emphasis on the reduction of our food import bill This project affords us yet another opportunity to work towards increasing our net exports of food and increasing also our competitiveness. We can derive much needed spillover effects, including greater contribution to GDP and social economic development. The aforementioned is facilitated by adherence to international food safety standards, including good agricultural practices, good manufacturing practices, and HACCP certification. The greater availability and use of cold chain transportation to obtain benefits, including prolonged shelf life and reduction of risks such as food poisoning. In closing, I would want to urge us all, let us all continue to work assiduously to ensure that this agricultural sector continues to be a buttress to food and nutrition security and also income security for our island, St. Lucia. I thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your listening. Thank you very much.
Thank you, P.S. Felicien. So I now call on to address you, the Honorable Emma Hippolyte, Minister for Commerce, Manufacturing, Business Development, Cooperative and Consumer Affairs. And as you would have heard earlier, the two implementing agencies, Export Saint Lucia and the Bureau of Standards, some of the key stakeholders are the affiliate agencies of the Ministry of Commerce. I welcome Madam Honorable Emma Hippolyte to the podium to deliver the address.
Madam Chair, before I start, I want to do something that I think we need to do, and that is to recognize in a big way the contribution and the passion of Mr. Anthony Herman as he stood at this podium. So I want Mr. I can't see him now. He's still there. I want Mr. Herman to stand, and I want us to give him a resounding round of applause. As well, Madam Chair, I want us to do something else, something he proposed while he was at this podium, because it is fundamental going forward. So I want Mr. Herman to come to the front, and I want our CDB rep, Mr. Isaac Solomon. Mr. Herman, come on. I would like you to make this presentation, because you know I'm thinking down the road. We will be knocking at your door. Presentation to the esteemed gentleman, please. Thank you. Now, I think this was important for us as we think down the road of, Mr. Herman, come and present the other one to the Minister for Health. Oh, for me? So you want to make presentations? All right. So.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yes.
Thank you. Now, I do not have the protocol list, but let's see what I can do. Honorable Moses Jabatis, Minister for Health, Wellness and Elderly Affairs. I have Ms. Sophia Alfie Henry, Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Commerce. I'll keep it short because I have a problem with my voice, so I'm trying to curtail. Mr. Barrymore Felicien, Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Agriculture. And I also recognize your DPS, Ministry of Agriculture. Mr. Isaac Solomon, VP Operations, CDB. We have Mr. Sheldon Jackman, Project Officer and Head of the EU Delegation. And we have a Mr. Alexis Downs, who's not present. Okay. Ms. Sunita Daniel, CEO of Export Saint Lucia. Mr. Bernie Manuel, Executive Director, St. Lucia Bureau of Standards. I see another PS somewhere there, looking like a PS. PS Economic Affairs. PS Economic Affairs, members of the media, staff of the Bureau of Standards, staff of Export Saint Lucia, members of the staff of the public service, media personnel, esteemed ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I offer greetings from our Prime Minister, the Honorable Philip J. Pierre, who couldn't be here today, but is elated at the promise which this project and others of this nature brings to the people of our beloved country. I stand here today in my capacity as Minister for Commerce and Cooperatives as well, to echo the sentiments of those who have spoken ahead of me. Sentiments of gratitude to the EU and the CDB. I would also like to offer thanks on behalf of our farmers, members of cooperative movements, because I'm both a farmer and an active member, not only as am I a minister of cooperatives, but I'm also a member of several cooperatives. So I wear these hats proudly this afternoon. The farmers of St. Lucia have for a very long time carried the weight of this country, as it has been through their toils that our people have progressed to where they are today. We've had a long relationship with the EU, and especially the United Kingdom with our bananas and of late other produce. While we witnessed the normalization of secured markets throughout decades past, we were strengthened by the resilience of the farmers to keep at it, much like their foreparents did. The onus was then upon us as a government to match that resilience and perseverance with advancement in processing, technology, and standards. These advancements would ensure that our farmers kept abreast with what was expected by our international partners and buyers. Our government has continuously advocated agricultural diversification and an agricultural sector built around bananas, but not based solely on banana export. A project such as this one, which will target fresh produce exported intended for international markets, is welcome and timely. The Ministry of Commerce is a strong advocate of standards. We understand the need for them and champion their attainment. The ministry actively seeks opportunities for development and adherence within our private and public sectors. And I'm pleased to see extensive training in standards as an objective of this project. The retrofitting or rehabilitation of pack houses towards GAP certification or HACCP readiness is certainly a step in the right direction. It will make available safe and sterile premises for farmers along the agricultural belt of the country to process and prepare the produce for the domestic and export markets. The work of Export Saint Lucia will receive a shot in the arm through this project, as it will address the concerns that this agency has held for quite some time. Market after market, country after country, sound the message that agricultural produce for the markets must ensure the health of the consumers are protected. While some of our exporters do have adequate facilities, a great number do not, and this project will alleviate this issue, especially for smaller farmers in rural communities who do not have the financial resources to construct a pack house on the farm. I am pleased to note that in all communities targeted, farmer cooperatives will be the vehicle through which this project will be implemented. The focus on capacity building is integral to the success of the pack houses and the users. The involvement of partners like the Safford Lewis Community College and the UNORA Air Cargo Services will contribute to the legacy of this project by ensuring that the material is technologically advanced and ready. The preparation of programs and training in GAP and GMP, auditing and certification will augur well for our continued push, not just towards meeting market requirements, but towards the development of our farmers, farms, and facilities. As I exit, I would like to again recognize and thank the EU and the CDB through their representatives here, the staff of the Ministry of Agriculture, the Ministry of Commerce, the St. Lucia Bureau of Standards, and Export Saint Lucia. I'm fully confident that this initiative will have tremendous impact and success. And with soldiers like Mr. Herman, I know that we will succeed. May God guide our collective efforts. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Emma Hippolyte. I now call on Ms. Sunita Daniel, Chief Executive Officer of Export Saint Lucia, to do the closing remarks.
Thank you, Chair, and good afternoon to our specially invited guests. Thank you so much for being here. Everybody knows I love farmers, and so good afternoon to our farmers who are here. It's very nice to see you. Thank you for coming. Good afternoon, ministers. Thank you for coming. Thank you, Mr. Solomon, for being here. Thank you to the rest of the CDB team, PSs, everyone. Good afternoon. The previous presentations have really captured the value of this project, and I have the honor to build on all of these sentiments as we close today's ceremony. We would not be implementing this project at any other better time. Ashaki said it yesterday, nothing happens before its time, and it's really true. This is really the opportune time to be implementing this project. As mentioned by Minister Hippolyte, regular trade missions led by Export Saint Lucia have revealed a high interest and demand for Saint Lucian products, primarily our agricultural produce. And that's no surprise, as Saint Lucian farmers are some of the hardest working people I know. In fact, our farmers have always indicated that as long as we can source the markets, they will produce the agricultural products. While we have no doubts about their abilities, the major hurdle has always been the quality of the pack houses and the quantity of produce that meets the relevant benchmarks. As we seek larger markets and larger international supermarket chains to purchase our products, we are frequently asked by these buyers to come into St. Lucia to view the pack houses. Thank you. And I remember being in Canada and we showing our portfolio of products, and everybody loves the dasheen and they love the yam and they love everything they see. And they said, Miss Danielle, we'd like to come to St. Lucia to see your pack house. And I'm like, okay, what do? I don't know what to say at this point, but I did invite them to come to see. COVID happened. For once, praise the Lord, COVID happened, so it didn't work out that way. Therefore, to create opportunities that our farmers duly deserve, we must work collaboratively to better existing production spaces and to bring them up to international standards. This is the only way to allow this subsector of our exports to grow. Ladies and gentlemen, at the height of the pandemic, agricultural exports, I would like to tell you, in key commodities increased. So agricultural exports for CMOS increased, while other export areas declined. At the heart of all exports, whether goods or services, are the people who make them happen. The team at Export Saint Lucia strongly believes in regular and relevant capacity building. It is in the country's best interest that we seek out these types of opportunities for our clients and our farmers. We are especially pleased with the capacity building component of this project, which will be delivered virtually, reaching farmers and other stakeholders wherever they are. At this time, I would like to express immense thanks to Dr. Keith Nurse, who's here with us, of the Sir Arthur Lewis Community College, who will be collaborating with the St. Lucia Bureau of Standards and its team to deliver the training. Our farmers, exporters, and critical players within the value chain will benefit tremendously from this intervention. To the representatives of the various farmer cooperatives and community farmers here with us today, we do hope that you explain to your members how important it is to participate in the sessions. The ultimate benefits will be yours as we help you build international competitiveness. And I was most pleased to hear from Mr. Herman how training he received 30 to 40 years ago by the CDB is actually being used by their cooperatives up to a day like today. And Mr. Herman does a lot of extensive capacity building. He does work with a lot of the youth in his community. So that kind of training he received 30 to 40 years ago is still reaping tremendous benefits even now. In addition to the comprehensive training and certification program, this project will also feature the procurement of a refrigerated truck. This vital piece of equipment is not readily available to our farmers. Having a refrigerated truck at their disposal means that we can now transport extremely perishable produce in a temperature-controlled environment. I cannot tell you how much it breaks my heart. Sometimes, even during COVID, where we had lots of cargo, agricultural produce, on the airport, ready to go on to British Airways. British Airways has no more capacity, no more space. Our farmers now have to take that produce in the back of their vans and look for areas where they can now store that produce until the next flight becomes available. I do not have to tell you how much of that produce gets destroyed, is of no longer of the quality that the market required, and the look of our farmers and on their faces when they realize that is no longer exportable. This project will make sure that that does not happen again. And if anything, I think that is one of the biggest things for us today. Export Saint Lucia's research has shown that one of the reasons we are being refused entry into certain markets is bruising and improper transportation of our agricultural produce. To summarize, an intervention will be made at every stage of the value chain, from production, where our farmers will be trained, to getting into the pack house, to distribution, where SLASPA is, where the refrigerated truck is, to where the final consumer. So along the entire value chain, quality is ensured. The government has been focusing on diversification around the major banana crop into many other non-traditional agricultural commodities. This project is therefore timely in the support that it will provide to government's current policy. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank again profusely on behalf of the National Export Council. I want to thank the European Union. I want to thank CDB, Thank you, Ashaki, for the continual guidance while we developed this project. Thank you to the SLBS for all the work that we put into developing this project. To CARIFORUM for stepping up with the standby facility to address such a critical need for the farmers. I also want to thank the honorable ministers here with us today for attending this launch. And I don't know if many of you know, but Honorable Moses Jabatis was the previous Minister of Agriculture within the Labour Party. And that just shows you his continued commitment to the agricultural sector, even while he's the Minister of Health. So thank you, Minister, for being here today. More importantly, I want to thank all of you, because all of you are here today because you are going to be part of this project. So you're not invited here to have some of the refreshments we'll be having in a little while, but you are all very critical parts of ensuring that this project is implemented successfully. And like I always tell my team, let's do this for the farmers. It's not about us, it's for the people who we serve. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Madam CEO. And with this, we've come to the end of our launch. I want to thank everyone who's taken the time to attend, to be with us, and to share in that experience. I now invite you for some non-alcoholic refreshments, Sunita. Yes. Thank you very much.